Well, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for this briefing on Tropical Storm Nicole. Joining me today are emergency management officials and key stakeholders from departments throughout Duval County. Duval County remains under a state of emergency at this time. We're also under a tropical storm warning, storm surge warning, flood watch, and a tornado watch. Nicole made landfall south of Duval County in the early morning hours as a Category 1 hurricane. She has since weakened to a tropical storm but continues to impact our area. If you are watching Nicole's track, it is well to the west of Jacksonville and the beaches. However, our biggest threat remains storm surge and tidal flooding along our beaches and the St. Johns River, as well as the potential for tornadoes throughout the area. High tide tonight and tomorrow morning will present the biggest risk for flooding at the beaches and along the St. Johns River. If you live in Zone A or B, please stay aware and be prepared. We currently have public works crews in the flood-prone areas like McCoy's Creek, Hogan's Creek, and San Marco, where there's some localized flooding. There's also flooding along Ken Knight Drive, and like we did during Hurricane Ian, we have partnered with the Jacksonville Transportation Authority to provide a direct shuttle to the Legends Center shelter for any of those residents in need. We will continue to closely watch these areas through tonight's high tides. For the beaches, that's around 9 p.m., and inland high tide is 11 p.m. Two shelters open at 8 a.m. today, the Legends Center and Landmark Middle School. Both are available for those with special needs, the special medical needs, the general population, and both are pet friendly. We still do not expect evacuations, but we want to make sure shelters are available for those who may be in need. I said it yesterday and I'll say it again. Please stay out of the water and off of the beaches. The surf is breaching the dunes and there's no beach to stand on. Once again, this morning I watched local news and saw people were in the ocean. These are terrible conditions. You're risking the lives of yourself and those that may have to come rescue you. So stay out of the water. I'd also like to ask all citizens to stay off of the roads until the storm passes. There are down power lines in areas as well as trees. There have been multiple accidents today, several that required extrications, one that shut down the Dames Point in both directions, and with these conditions, there's potential for more. Do not go out unless you have until the storm until the storm passes and these tidal flooding effects have receded. In conclusion, remember that if you have questions or need to report a non-emergency incident in the city, call 630-CITY. If you have an emergency, call 911. Lines are open with extra operators on 630-CITY and will be available to handle potential heavy call volume. With that, I invite Chief Ellis Burns to talk about Jacksonville Sheriff's Office efforts, followed by Jay Stowe from JEA.
Thank you, Mayor Curry. Good afternoon. I'm Ellis Burns, Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. So I couldn't say any better than Mayor Curry did. Please stay off the roads. We're working about 20 crashes as of 11:30. As the mayor said, some requiring extrications. Most of these are most likely going to be weather related. So I'm asking people to please stay off the roads. It's inclement weather. We're hoping this is going to pass the next few hours. We'll continue to watch the storm track and work with the National Weather Service on that, but there's no sense in being on the roads if you don't have to be, so please don't. We're still fully staffed, extra staff actually right now, and we're deploying strike teams to try to shut down intersections where there's standing water at that's impassable. Outside that, if you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you. JEA crews have been out all night restoring power. The storm, as it still passes through, there will continue to be outages, and the fluctuation of the numbers of outages will be moving around a little bit. A few minutes ago, we were down to about 6,500 outages right now. It has been as high as 25,000. All the crews are out responding. There's some areas where it is difficult to get to because of trees and flooding, but we will continue to work around the clock till we can get those back on. Our water system is holding up well, no overflows and no broken pipes, so we should be good there. And we have partnership with the city and all the other agencies to keep things moving as quickly as we can. Thank you.
That will take questions.
Already with flooding, especially in the South Bank, the North Bank, the San Marco area, we're seeing worse water levels than we did during Ian. During Ian, you issued voluntary evacuations. Is there any possibility that a voluntary evacuation might come out?
I mean, I think that people ought to use common sense right now. Again, if you know you're in these areas, the zones I mentioned, A and B, if you've seen flooding in previous storms, if you ought to consider moving if you can. I think that would be common sense and wise.
When it comes to municipal services, everything was supposed to resume tomorrow. Is that still the plan?
That is the yes. And so makeup day for today will be Saturday. Is that right, Steve?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Just a couple of questions on the tidal flooding. What are you expecting tomorrow? I mean, is it going to be worse than it is right now? What do you think is going to be happening?
Well, I mean, it could be. I mean, we don't know. I think it's really important for people as this storm passes, and sun may even come out this afternoon. I don't know. If it does, don't assume the flood risk is over. It could last throughout the evening and into tomorrow.
Where are some of you've mentioned some of the areas, the traditional areas, but have you had any property damage, anything that has been reported yet from flooding?
Steve, have you heard any?
Steve Long, Public Works, thank you. Have not had any reports come into our office about property damage. We do know that, you know, all of our low-lying areas are seeing impacts from the storm. And basically until the tide turns and goes out, we won't be able to assess how the drainage system's doing. But the impacts to private properties, we haven't had any reports on those.
Just a final question. You mentioned the shelter's open. Has anybody taken you up on that yet, or do you know?
Yeah, there are people in shelters. I don't know the number counts off the top of my head, but there are some people utilizing the services. Todd, you have the numbers.
Yeah. So Todd Smith, yes sir. So Landmark Middle has 13 residents here, and Legends has 13 for a total of 26, and this is only 1% of our total population of the shelter.
If tonight is going to be worse than we've already seen from a high tide perspective, what has the city done? What is the city going to do for some of the projects that are in the works in those areas that could be flooded, especially downtown with the development that's happening there?
Steve, existing projects that are...
Yes, ma'am. For existing projects that are ongoing, for instance, on LaSalle Street, there's a new pump station that is under design and is going to be under construction in the next year. So that'll be in place. That will help with some of the issues we're seeing because it'll cut off some of the direct connections to the river. If the river rises above the bulkhead, that kind of negates that work, but for everything up to the bulkhead elevations, that'll help cure it. We're doing a lot of work right now along the McQuarrie's Creek basin, which is seeing impacts today, but they're lesser impacts than we've seen in previous storms. So it shows that work that is going, even though it's multiple phases, it shows that early phase is helping the drainage systems, and so work like that will continue to help and improve things as we move into the future.
Can you talk about Hogan's Creek? That's where we are seeing
Hogan's Creek, yeah.
Hogan's Creek, you know, again, that's one of our trouble areas, and you know that's a project that is planned into the future. That is, you know, designed. It's not designed. When it is designed, we're going to look to make the same kind of improvements that we're seeing in McQuarrie's Creek. However, that's in several years into the future. But when that starts, we'll be looking to make those same type of drainage improvements.
And I know this is far early days, but when it comes to the Riverwalk right there under the Main Street Bridge, it never really recovered after Ian, was still soggy, now completely submerged. Is there a plan to maybe redo that?
There's a plan to make a repair, basically from where the water, that area is submerged all the time, and the walls are dry, and it keeps the lower area dry during normal operations. During Ian, there was a water seal was broken, and we actually had a plan to start that repair in the coming days, if not next week. Once this storm passes, we'll get that area dried out again. We'll get our contractor back on board to start that repair so that we can make it completely dry again.
Mayor, this is probably your last news conference at the ELC.
I hope so. I hope so. But, I mean, look, there's still, what, 7 months left, 8 months left, and people here have a job to do. So, you know, hopefully another crisis won't present itself while I'm in office, but if it does, we'll be ready for it, and we'll stand ready to pass on all of our knowledge to the next administration. Thank you.